The scent of lemon polish and desperation clung to Sofia Romano's hands as she scrubbed the marble countertop for the third time. It was already spotless, but Mrs. Chen, the head housekeeper at the Vittorio estate, had made it clear. Perfection wasn't optional. New girls don't last long here, Mrs. Chen had said on Sofia's first day 2 weeks ago. Mr. Vittorio expects excellence. One mistake, and you're gone. No second chances. Sofia couldn't afford mistakes. The $2,800 a month she earned cleaning this massive Boston mansion was exactly $2,800 more than she'd had 3 months ago when she'd arrived from Naples with nothing but a battered suitcase and her grandmother's rosary. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. She stepped back, surveying the kitchen. Morning sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating a space bigger than the entire apartment she'd grown up in. Everything here spoke of wealth she couldn't imagine. Italian marble, custom cabinetry, appliances that cost more than a year of her salary. The house belonged to Dante Vittorio, a name whispered in Boston's North End with equal parts fear and respect. Sofia had heard the rumors, the carefully worded warnings from the other staff. He was connected, dangerous, a man who controlled things people didn't talk about in polite company, but Sofia didn't care about rumors. She cared about the money order she sent home every month to her sick father in Naples. She cared about the nursing care he needed that Italian healthcare didn't fully cover. She cared about surviving in a country where she was invisible, illegal, and utterly alone. Sofia, Mrs. Chen's sharp voice cut through her thoughts. Mr. Vittorio's bedroom, fresh linens. He's returning tonight after 3 weeks away. Everything must be perfect. Sofia nodded, grabbing the basket of expensive Egyptian cotton sheets. She'd only been in the master suite once before, always supervised, always careful. The private spaces of powerful men felt dangerous, even empty. The bedroom was on the 3rd floor, down a hallway lined with art that probably cost more than her father's entire medical debt. She knocked softly, habit from years of service work, then entered when silence greeted her. The room was masculine and austere. Dark wood furniture, deep blue bedding, minimal decoration. But what caught her attention was the wall of photographs near the window. Sofia moved closer. Drawn by curiosity she knew she should suppress. The photos showed a younger Dante Vittorio, maybe 16 or 17, always with the same woman. She was beautiful, dark-haired, with eyes that held warmth and sadness in equal measure. His mother, Sofia realized. The resemblance was unmistakable. In every photo, the woman wore a gentle smile, her hand often on young Dante's shoulder, protective and proud. Sofia felt an unexpected ache in her chest. She recognized that expression. Her own mother had looked at her that way before cancer had stolen her when Sofia was 12. She forced herself to focus on work, stripping the bed with practiced efficiency. The sheets smelled faintly of expensive cologne and something else, something that reminded her of the sea. As she worked, she hummed softly, an old Neapolitan song her grandmother had taught her, Anima e cor, soul and heart. The melody filled the empty room, her voice soft but clear. It was the only piece of home she allowed herself, these stolen moments of song while she cleaned other people's spaces. Sofia was tucking in the final corner when she heard it. Footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, purposeful, wrong. Mr. Vittorio wasn't supposed to return until evening. Mrs. Chen had been explicit about the timeline. The door opened. Sofia spun around, her heart hammering. A man filled the doorway, and she knew instantly this was Dante Vittorio. He was taller than she'd imagined, maybe 6'3", with broad shoulders under an obviously expensive black suit. His face was all sharp angles and controlled intensity, dark eyes that seemed to catalog everything in a single glance. Those eyes locked on her now, and Sofia felt pinned in place like a butterfly on display. "I'm sorry," she stammered in accented English. "Mrs. Chen said you come tonight. I finish quickly. I go." But Dante didn't move, didn't speak. He just stared at her with an expression she couldn't read. Shock? Recognition? Something darker? The silence stretched, becoming uncomfortable. Sofia clutched the dirty linens to her chest like a shield. "I'm sorry," she repeated. "I leave now." "Stop." His voice was low, rough, like gravel and smoke. "What were you singing?" Sofia blinked, thrown by the question. Nothing. Old song. I'm sorry if I disturb. What song?" He took a step into the room, and Sofia instinctively stepped back. Sing it again. Mr. Vittorio, I should. Please. The words seemed to cost him something. Just the first verse. Against every instinct screaming at her to leave, Sofia opened her mouth and sang softly, Anima e cor mio, nun se la samo più. She barely made it through 4 lines before Dante's hand shot out, gripping the dresser so hard his knuckles went white. His face had gone pale, his jaw clenched tight. Where did you learn that? His voice was barely controlled now. Who taught you that song? My grandmother, Sofia whispered, frightened by his intensity. She was from Naples, from a small village. Which village? He moved closer, and Sofia's back hit the wall. He wasn't threatening her, exactly, but his presence was overwhelming. Tell me which village. Castelvolturno, in Caserta province. Why does it? Dante's breath left him in a rush. He took a step back, running a hand through his dark hair. When he looked at her again, his eyes were shining, with something that looked dangerously close to tears. My mother, he said hoarsely, was from Castelvolturno. She sang that song exactly the way you just did. The old dialect, not standard Italian. The version only people from that specific village would know. Sofia's mind reeled. That's not possible. It's a common song. Not that version. Dante moved to the window, his back to her. His shoulders were rigid with tension. I haven't heard it sung that way in 15 years. Not since she died. The pain in his voice was raw, unguarded. Sofia found herself responding to it despite her fear. I'm sorry for your loss, she said softly. My mother died too. When I was young. I understand. You don't understand anything. But there was no heat in the words, just exhaustion. What's your full name? Sofia Romano. Romano. He turned back to face her. Your grandmother's maiden name? Esposito. Maria Esposito. Something flickered across Dante's face. How old was she when she left Italy? She never left. She died there 2 years ago. She raised me after my mother. Sofia stopped, confusion overriding caution. Why are you asking these questions? Dante pulled out his phone, typed rapidly, then showed her a photo. It was old, faded, showing 2 young women, maybe 18 or 19, arms around each other, laughing at the camera. That's my mother, Dante said, pointing to the woman on the left. Isabella Vittorio, before she married, taken in Castelvolturno in 1985. Sofia leaned closer, studying the image. The woman on the right looked familiar in a way that made her chest tighten. The nose, the shape of the face, the eyes. That's my grandmother, Sofia breathed. That's Nonna Maria, but how? They were best friends. Dante's voice was tight, grew up together. My mother talked about Maria constantly, said she was closer than a sister. He paused. She also said Maria died in a car accident in 1986, that she'd lost her, best friend forever. Sofia's world tilted. That's not true. Nonna Maria lived until 2023. She raised me. She was alive. Then someone lied. Dante's jaw clenched. Either my mother lied about Maria dying or someone lied to my mother. They stared at each other. 2 strangers connected by dead women and impossible coincidences. Sofia's mind raced through memories of her grandmother, searching for clues, for explanations. Nonna never talked about her youth, Sofia said slowly. She always changed the subject when I asked about before she married my grandfather. She said the past was painful, better forgotten. My mother was the same. Dante moved closer again, his intensity focused entirely on Sofia. She had photographs from her childhood, letters, but she destroyed most of them before she died. Said she wanted to protect me from old ghosts. Ghosts, Sofia repeated. Or secrets. Yes. Dante's dark eyes held hers. Secrets that apparently involved your grandmother, and mine. Secrets that someone thought were worth faking a death over. Sofia clutched the linens tighter, her mind spinning. This couldn't be happening. She'd come to America to escape her past, to build something new, and now the past was reaching out through songs and photographs and impossible connections. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. I should go, she said. I need to think. Wait. Dante's hand caught her wrist, gentle but firm. I need to ask you something. And I need you to be honest. Sofia looked at his hand on her wrist, at the contrast between his expensive watch and her work-roughened skin. "Why did you come to America?" he asked quietly. The truth. She could have lied, should have lied. But something about this moment, about the raw emotion in his eyes, made honesty feel necessary. "My father is sick," she said. "Heart condition. The treatments are expensive. I send money home every month." She met his gaze. "I came here illegally, Mr. Vittorio. On a tourist visa, I overstayed. I work for cash under a fake name. If I'm deported, my father dies." She waited for him to react with disgust or anger, to call immigration, to destroy the fragile life she'd built. Instead, Dante released her wrist and stepped back. "I'm not going to report you," he said. "That's not who I am." He paused. "Despite what you may have heard." "I haven't heard anything," Sofia lied. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Yes, you have. Everyone in this house talks. It's fine. Most of it's true anyway." He walked to the window, looking out at the manicured grounds below. "My mother died when I was 17, he said quietly. "Cancer. Fast and brutal. She was only 42. His hand clenched on the window frame. "She made me promise before she died that I'd be different than my father, that I'd choose a better path." "Did you?" The question left Sofia's mouth before she could stop it. Dante turned, and his expression was complicated, layered with things she couldn't begin to understand. "I tried," he said. "I'm still trying. But this world I'm in, the life I inherited, it's not easy to leave, not easy to change." He looked at her directly. "Your grandmother and my mother were connected somehow. That connection matters to me, which means you matter to me." Sofia's breath caught. "Mr. Vittorio, Dante," he corrected. "If our mothers were sisters in everything but blood, then we're something like family, and I protect family." "And I don't need protection," Sofia said, even as her mind catalogued all the ways she did. The fake documents, the illegal status, the constant fear of discovery. "Everyone needs protection," Dante said. "The question is whether they're brave enough to accept it." He pulled out a business card, handed it to her. Heavy stock, simple design, just a name and number. "I have questions about our mothers," he said. "About what connected them, what separated them, why Maria supposedly died. I think you might have answers in whatever your grandmother left behind." "She left nothing, just debts and memories." "Memories matter." Dante's voice softened. "Will you help me understand this? Help me figure out what our mothers were hiding?" Sofia looked at the card, at this dangerous man offering something she couldn't quite define. Partnership? Alliance? Something more complicated? "Why does it matter now?" she asked. "They're both gone. Because my mother's last words to me were, 'Find Maria. Tell her I'm sorry.'" Dante's voice cracked slightly. "I couldn't. I thought Maria was already dead. But if she was alive all those years, if she had a granddaughter, if there's any chance of understanding what happened." He didn't finish. Didn't need to. Sofia understood grief. Understood the desperate need to connect with ghosts, to make sense of loss. "Okay," she heard herself say. "I'll help you." Something shifted in Dante's expression. Relief, gratitude, and underneath it all, something warmer that made Sofia's skin prickle with awareness. "Thank you," he said. "I'll make sure you're compensated." "I don't want money," Sofia interrupted. "If I do this, it's not for payment. Our grandmothers were friends. That should mean something." Dante studied her for a long moment, and Sofia felt like he was seeing past her maid's uniform, past her fear, to something essential underneath. "You're not what I expected," he said quietly. "Neither are you, Mr. Vittorio." "Dante," he corrected again, and this time she nodded. "Dante." The name felt strange on her tongue, intimate somehow, like crossing a line she couldn't uncross. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. "Mrs." Chen's voice called out. "Sofia, where are you with those linens?" Reality crashed back. Sofia was a maid, holding dirty sheets, standing in her employer's bedroom, having a conversation that could get her fired or worse. "I need to go," she said quickly. Dante nodded but caught her hand briefly as she passed. The touch was gentle, just the moment of contact, but it sent electricity up Sofia's arm. "Tomorrow," he said. "After your shift. Meet me in the library downstairs. Bring anything your grandmother left behind. Letters, photographs, anything." Sofia nodded, pulling her hand free, and fled the room with her heart hammering against her ribs. Sofia didn't sleep that night. She lay on the narrow bed in the tiny room she rented in East Boston, staring at the water-stained ceiling, replaying every moment of that impossible conversation. Dante Vittorio had looked at her like she mattered, like she was more than invisible hands that cleaned his house, and that terrified her more than anything else. At 3 a.m, she finally gave up on sleep and pulled out the small cardboard box she kept under her bed. Everything her grandmother had left behind fit in this single container: a rosary, a few photographs, her wedding ring, and a leather-bound journal Sofia had never been able to bring herself to read. Now, in the dim light of her single lamp, Sofia opened the journal for the first time. The entries were sporadic, written in Italian, dated across decades. The handwriting shook in places, steadied in others. Sofia's eyes scanned the pages, catching fragments. I dream of Isabella again. 30 years gone, and I still see her face. Today would have been her birthday. I lit a candle at Santa Maria's, prayed she found peace. The choice I made in 1986 saved my life but cost me everything that mattered. Some days I wonder if survival was worth the price. Sofia's hands trembled as she turned the pages. Her grandmother had never mentioned Isabella, never spoken of Boston or the Vittorio family. Every reference had been carefully erased, until the final entry, dated 3 weeks before Nonna Maria's death. Sofia is leaving for America. I tried to stop her, but she has her mother's stubbornness. She thinks she's chasing hope, but America is where all my ghosts live. I should tell her about Isabella, about what happened, about the danger that still exists after all these years. But how do I explain that some friendships are worth dying for, and some secrets are worth living with? If she finds them, if she finds the Vittorio family, God protect her from the truth, and God forgive me for staying silent. Sofia read the passage 3 times, her heart pounding harder with each word. Danger, secrets, God protect her. What had her grandmother been running from? And why hadn't she warned Sofia more directly? A knock on her door made her jump. She glanced at the clock. 4:47 a.m. Nobody knocked at this hour unless something was wrong. Sofia crept to the door, looked through the peephole. A woman stood in the hallway, middle-aged, wearing a nurse's uniform. Her neighbor, Rosa, who worked night shifts at Mass General. Sofia? Rosa's voice was urgent. You need to come out. There's a man asking about you downstairs. Ice flooded Sofia's veins. Immigration? Police? Someone who'd discovered her illegal status? She opened the door a crack. What kind of man? Expensive suit. Nice car. Says his name is Marco. Says Mr. Vittorio sent him. Rosa's eyes were wide with a mixture of fear and awe. Sofia, what have you gotten into? Sofia's mind raced. It was barely 5 a.m. Why would Dante send someone now? Unless something was wrong. She threw on jeans and a sweater, grabbed her grandmother's journal, and followed Rosa downstairs. In front of her building, a black Mercedes idled at the curb. A man in his 40s stood beside it, his posture radiating professional security. Miss Romano? He asked as she approached. I'm Marco Russo. Mr. Vittorio sent me to collect you. We need to leave immediately. Why? What's happened? Someone broke into the Vittorio estate an hour ago. They got into your locker in the staff quarters, took everything inside. Marco's expression was grim. Mr. Vittorio believes you may be in danger. He wants you somewhere, secure until we understand what's happening. Sofia's blood ran cold. Her locker contained nothing valuable, just a spare uniform, her real passport, and a photograph of her father. But the fact that someone had targeted it specifically, had broken in during the night. How did they know which locker was mine? She asked. That's what we're trying to figure out. Marco opened the car door. Please, Miss Romano. Mr. Vittorio was very clear. I'm to keep you safe. Every instinct told Sofia to run, to disappear into the city, to refuse this protection that felt like a cage closing around her. But where would she go? She had no friends here, no family, no safety net. And if someone was looking for her, someone connected to whatever secrets her grandmother had kept, then refusing help might be the most dangerous choice of all. Sofia climbed into the Mercedes. They drove through empty pre-dawn streets, heading west out of the city. Marco made quiet calls in Italian, updating someone on their location. Sofia clutched her grandmother's journal, trying to process what was happening. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a brownstone in Brookline. Not the Vittorio estate, somewhere else. Somewhere that looked residential and quiet. Safe house. Marco explained, helping her out. Mr. Vittorio owns several properties like this. Secure, off the books. You'll be comfortable here. The interior was beautiful in an understated way. Hardwood floors, comfortable furniture, a kitchen that looked recently updated. Nothing ostentatious, but everything quality. Dante was waiting in the living room. He'd changed from his suit into dark jeans and a black sweater, and somehow he looked more dangerous this way, more real. "I'm sorry about this," he said immediately. "I didn't want to scare you, but when Marco called about the break-in, who would target my locker?" Sofia interrupted. "I have nothing valuable, nothing anyone would want. You have a connection to me." Dante's jaw was tight. "That makes you valuable to certain people. People who might want leverage." "Leverage for what?" "For things I can't fully explain right now." He moved closer, and Sofia saw exhaustion in the lines around his eyes. "But I need you to trust me when I say that someone knowing about you, about our connection, puts you at risk." Sofia thought about her grandmother's journal entry. "God protect her from the truth." "My grandmother knew," she said quietly. "She knew coming to America was dangerous. She wrote about it in her journal." Dante's attention sharpened. "You have a journal?" Sofia held it up. "I only read it tonight. She mentioned Isabella, mentioned secrets, mentioned danger that still existed after all these years." She met his eyes. "What happened between them, Dante? What was so terrible that my grandmother faked her death and hid for 37 years? "I don't know," he admitted, "but I'm going to find out." He gestured to the couch. "May I see it?" They sat together, the journal open between them. Dante read slowly, his Italian clearly fluent. With each page, his expression grew darker. "She was terrified," he murmured. "Whatever happened in 1986, it wasn't just friendship ending. It was something that made her believe her life was in danger." "From who?" Dante's hand clenched on the journal. "There are things about my family, about the business we're involved in, that you don't understand." "Then explain it to me." "I can't. Not fully. Not without—" He stopped, seemed to reconsider. "My father was involved in organizations that operated outside the law. When he died, I inherited responsibilities, territories, obligations. I've been trying to extract myself, to build legitimate businesses, but it's not simple. There are people who don't want change, people who view any shift in power structure as opportunity or threat." Sofia processed this carefully. "You're telling me your family is Mafia." The word hung between them, stark and undeniable. "I'm telling you my world is complicated," Dante said, "and dangerous. And whatever happened between our mothers might have involved that danger. So someone broke into your house, found out about me, and decided I'm worth targeting because they think I know something?" Sofia felt hysteria building. "I'm a maid, Dante. I clean toilets. I don't know anything about your business, or your family, or you know about the connection between our mothers." His voice was gentle but firm. "That's enough. In my world, information is currency. Leverage is power. Someone thinks you might have something they want." Sofia stood abruptly, pacing to the window. Outside, dawn was breaking over Brookline, painting everything in shades of gray and gold. "I should leave," she said. "Go back to Italy. Disappear like my grandmother did. They'll find you." Dante stood too. "Whoever this is, they're connected. They have resources. Running won't protect you. And staying here will?" Sofia spun to face him. "Hiding in your safe house, under your protection, becoming whatever I'm becoming to you that's safer?" "Yes." No hesitation. "Because I won't let anyone hurt you." The certainty in his voice sent a shiver through Sofia. This wasn't empty bravado. This was a promise from a man who had the power to keep it. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care this much about someone you just met?" Dante crossed the space between them, stopping close enough that Sofia had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "Because my mother's last words were about finding Maria," he said quietly. "Because you sang a song that brought my mother back to life for 30 seconds. Because when I look at you, I see something I thought I'd lost forever. Proof that good people still exist in this world." His hand came up, stopping just short of touching her face. "And because the moment I heard you sing, something in me recognized something in you. I don't understand it. I don't expect you to believe it. But it's true." Sofia's breath caught. She should step back, should maintain distance, should remember that this man was dangerous in ways she couldn't fully comprehend. Instead, she said, "I'm scared." "I know." His hand finally made contact, cupping her cheek gently. But you don't have to be scared alone. A phone buzzed, shattering the moment. Dante stepped back, pulling out his cell, his expression shifting instantly to something harder. What? He answered. Then, when? How many? His jaw clenched. Keep them contained. I'm on my way. He hung up, turned to Sofia. I have to go. There's been a situation at one of my properties. Marco will stay here with you. Don't leave this house. Don't open the door for anyone except me or Marco. What kind of situation? The kind that proves someone is making a move. His eyes held hers. Trust me, Sofia, please. Just for today. Stay here, stay safe, and let me handle this. She wanted to argue, to demand more information, to refuse being locked away like a princess in a tower. But the fear in his eyes, carefully masked but visible to anyone paying attention, stopped her. Okay, she said. But tonight, when you come back, you tell me everything. No more vague explanations. I deserve the truth. You do, he agreed, and you'll have it. He left, taking the warmth with him. Sofia stood alone in the safe house, her grandmother's journal in her hands, and wondered what truth she'd just agreed to hear. Outside, she heard Marco's voice on the phone, speaking rapid Italian. She caught enough to understand. Surveillance, multiple targets, coordinated attack. Someone wasn't just curious about Sofia Romano. Someone was hunting her. And the only thing standing between her and whatever danger was coming was a man she'd known for less than 24 hours. A man whose world she was only beginning to understand. A man who looked at her like she was precious and necessary and worth protecting, even when that protection might cost him everything. Sofia sank onto the couch, opened her grandmother's journal to the final page, and read the last line again. God forgive me for staying silent. I won't stay silent, Nonna. Sofia whispered to the empty room. Whatever happened, whatever you were protecting me from, I'm going to find out. I'm going to finish what you started. The house settled into quiet around her. Marco's footsteps moved on the floor above, methodical and protective. And somewhere across the city, Dante Vittorio was walking into danger, driven by a connection he couldn't explain and a promise he intended to keep. Dante arrived at the warehouse in South Boston to find controlled chaos. 5 of his men stood guard around a black van, guns visible but not drawn. Inside the van, according to Marco's call, were 2 men who'd been caught trying to plant surveillance equipment outside the Vittorio estate. Talk to me, Dante said to Luca Marino, his head of security. We caught them at 4:30 a.m., Luca reported. Professional operation. They had high-end equipment, detailed floor plans of the estate, and, he paused, a photograph of Sofia Romano. Ice flooded Dante's veins. Show me. Luca handed him a phone. The photo showed Sofia leaving the estate yesterday, taken from across the street with a telephoto lens. On the back, someone had written in Italian, "The girl, priority target, alive." Who are they? Dante asked, his voice deadly calm. Small-time contractors, hired muscle. Luca's expression was grim. But the person who hired them is the interesting part. They're affiliated with the Calabresi family. The name landed like a bomb. The Calabresi family. Old-world mafia, roots in southern Italy, with operations stretching across Europe and into America. Dante's father had done business with them decades ago, before a falling out that had left bodies on both sides and a cold truce that held, more out of exhaustion than respect. Why would the Calabrese care about a maid? Dante asked, though pieces were starting to click into place. That's what we need to find out. Luca gestured to the van. Want to ask them yourself? Dante walked to the van. Inside, 2 men sat zip-tied to the interior handles, one with a black eye, both looking significantly less confident than they probably had at 4 a.m. Names, Dante said. The one with the black eye stayed silent. The other, younger and clearly more scared, spoke. Carlo Benedetti. That's Tommaso Russo. We didn't know who the girl was, I swear. We were just following orders. Orders from who? A contact in New York. He said photograph the girl, find out where she lives, report back. That's it. Just surveillance. And the notation on the photo? Dante held it up. Alive. Why specify that? Carlo and Tommaso exchanged glances. Because, Carlo said carefully, the other targets don't usually need to be alive. The admission hung in the air, confirming what Dante already suspected. This wasn't about routine surveillance. This was about kidnapping, leverage, something that required Sofia breathing and conscious. The contact in New York, Dante said. Give me a name. I don't know his real name. We call him Il Corvo, the Crow. He handles recruitment for the Calabrese operations in America. Dante pulled out his phone, sent a quick text to his contact in New York. Within seconds, a reply came back. Il Corvo is Angelo Marchetti, enforcer for Salvatore Calabrese, based in Brooklyn. Sending details. You're going to call your contact, Dante said to Carlo. You're going to tell him you got the information, that the girl lives in East Boston, and that she's vulnerable. You're going to set up a meeting for him to collect what you learned. Carlo's eyes widened. He'll know it's a trap. Not if you're convincing. Dante's smile was cold. And you're going to be very convincing, because if you're Samo Beth, not, Tommaso here is going to have a much worse day than he's already having. 20 minutes later, the call was made. Angelo Marchetti agreed to meet his contractors at a coffee shop in East Boston that afternoon to collect their intel and pay them for the job. He wouldn't be meeting Carlo and Tommaso. He'd be meeting Dante. Back at the safe house, Sofia was going through her grandmother's journal again, making notes, trying to piece together a timeline. The entries were frustratingly vague, but patterns emerged. 1,986. Multiple entries about the choice, about leaving everything behind. About Isabella's betrayal or sacrifice, the writing was unclear. 1,987 to 2,000. Sparse entries, mostly about Sofia's mother, about building a new life, about forgetting. 2001 to 2023. References to Isabella resumed, always tinged with regret and longing. Dreams, prayers, guilt. And then, buried in an entry from 2015. I saw him today. Isabella's son. His photograph was in the newspaper, some business. A deal in Rome. He has her eyes. God, he has her eyes exactly. He's involved in the same world that killed his grandfather, the same world I ran from. Isabella would be devastated. Or maybe she knew. Maybe that's why she did what she did. Sofia stared at the passage. The same world that killed his grandfather. Dante's grandfather had been murdered. That much was clear. But by who? And what did it have to do with her grandmother? A knock startled her. Marco appeared in the doorway. Miss Romano, we have a situation. Mr. Vittorio wants you moved to a different location. More secure. Why? What's happened? The men who broke into the estate were connected to a family from Italy, the Calabrese. Mr. Vittorio believes they may have been looking for information about your grandmother specifically. Sofia's breath caught. The Calabrese? I don't know that name. Your grandmother might have. Marco's expression was sympathetic. Pack whatever you have. We leave in 5 minutes. Sofia grabbed her few belongings, her mind racing. The Calabrese family, connected to Italy, looking for information about Maria Esposito. As Marco led her to a different car, a black SUV this time, Sofia made a decision. She pulled out her phone and dialed the number Dante had given her yesterday. He answered on the first ring. Sofia, are you okay? I need to know something, she said. My grandmother's journal mentions that your grandfather was murdered. Is that true? Silence on the other end. Then, yes, when I was 10. A car bomb. Who killed him? It was never proven, but my father always believed it was the Calabrese family. They'd been fighting over territory in southern Italy. My grandfather's death ended the war, but it also destroyed my family. His voice was tight. Why are you asking? Because my grandmother wrote about it. She knew about your grandfather's murder. And Marco says the men you caught this morning are connected to the Calabrese. Sofia's voice shook. Dante, what if our grandmothers didn't just drift apart? What if they were separated by the same people who killed your grandfather? She heard him breathe, heard the sound of a car engine starting. Where are you? He asked. Marco's moving me to a different safe house. No. Tell him to bring you to the address I'm texting you. Now. We're meeting Angelo Marchetti, the man who sent those contractors. I want you to see his face when I ask him about Maria Esposito. Dante, that's not safe. Nothing about this situation is safe anymore, but you deserve answers as much as I do, maybe more. His voice softened. Trust me, Sofia. One more time. Trust me. Sofia looked at Marco, who was listening to his own phone, clearly receiving orders from Dante. He wants you at the meeting. Marco confirmed. Says it's your choice, but he thinks you should be there. It was insane. Dangerous. Exactly the opposite of hiding. But Sofia thought about her grandmother. About 37 years of silence. about secrets that had poisoned 2 families. "Take me to him," she said. Marco nodded and changed direction. As they drove through Boston's afternoon traffic, Sofia clutched her grandmother's journal and wondered if she was about to finally understand what had driven Maria Esposito into hiding, or if she was about to discover that some secrets were kept buried for good reason. The coffee shop was in East Boston, a small Italian place called Cafe Vesuvio. Dante was already inside when Sofia arrived, sitting at a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. He wore jeans and a leather jacket, looking less like a businessman and more like exactly what he was, someone dangerous, pretending to be casual. His eyes found hers the moment she walked in. Relief flashed across his face, followed by something warmer. Sofia slid into the seat beside him, very aware of Marco and 2 other men positioned strategically around the cafe. The other patrons were sparse, and she suspected they'd been encouraged to take their coffee elsewhere. "He'll be here in 10 minutes, Dante said quietly. "When he arrives, let me talk first. But if you see something, if you recognize anything about him, tell me. You think I might know him? I think whoever wanted our mothers separated might still be alive. Might still be watching." His hand found hers under the table, squeezed gently. "Whatever we learn today, we face it together." Sofia nodded, her heart hammering. At exactly 2:30 p.m., the cafe door opened. A man walked in, mid-50s, gray at the temples, wearing an expensive overcoat. He had the look of someone who'd been handsome once but had let cruelty age him poorly. His eyes scanned the cafe, landed on Dante, and hardened with recognition. "Vittorio," he said, his Italian accent thick. "This is unexpected." "Marchetti," Dante's voice was cold. "Sit down. We need to talk about why you're surveilling my staff." Angelo sat across from them, his gaze flicking to Sofia with curiosity. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't insult my intelligence. Your contractors are currently explaining everything in very detailed terms. I want to know who ordered the surveillance, and I want to know why. I work for myself. You work for Salvatore Calabrese." Dante leaned forward. "So, let's skip the posturing. Why does the Calabrese family care about Maria Esposito's granddaughter?" Angelo's expression flickered surprise, then calculation. His eyes locked on Sofia with new intensity. "You're Maria's granddaughter," he said, more statement than question. "She had a granddaughter who came to America." "Answer the question," Dante said. "Why do you care?" Angelo leaned back, seeming to weigh his options. Then he smiled, and it was the coldest thing Sofia had ever seen. "Because Maria Esposito witnessed something in 1986 that she should have stayed quiet about. Something that involved Isabella Vittorio." He looked at Dante. "Your mother made a choice that cost the Calabrese family dearly, and Maria Esposito helped her do it." The air in the cafe went still. "What choice?" Dante's voice was barely controlled. "She testified." Angelo said it simply. "Your mother, Isabella Vittorio, testified against the Calabrese family in an Italian federal investigation. Her testimony put 12 men in prison, dismantled operations worth millions, and destroyed alliances that had existed for generations." Sofia's world tilted. Her grandmother had helped Isabella testify against the Mafia? "That's impossible," Dante said. "My mother would never." "She did. And Maria Esposito was her corroborating witness. They both saw something they shouldn't have. Something that implicated the Calabrese family in your grandfather's murder." Angelo's eyes glittered. They were supposed to stay silent. Instead, they went to the authorities. Isabella paid for it with her life cancer. Maybe. Or maybe something that looked like cancer. And Maria? She was smart. She disappeared before we could make her pay too. Sofia felt sick. Her grandmother had spent 37 years running from revenge, had lived in constant fear that the Calabrese family would find her. "You're lying," she said, but her voice shook. "Am I?" Angelo pulled out his phone, showed them a document. It was old, faded, but the names were clear. Isabella Vittorio and Maria Esposito, witnesses in case 1986CR8842. The State vs. Calabrese Criminal Enterprise. Dante stared at the document, his face ashen. "My father never told me." "Because your father was ashamed. His wife turned on his world, on the very people he did business with. It made him look weak, compromised." Angelo pocketed the phone. "So he buried it, told everyone. Maria died in an accident, told you your mother's cancer was natural, tried to erase what they'd done." "But the Calabrese didn't forget," Sofia whispered. "No, we don't forget. Angelo's voice was soft and deadly. For, I think 37 years, we looked for Maria. Now she's dead, but you're here, alive, and you might know things. Things about what your grandmother saw, about what evidence she kept. I don't know anything, Sofia said. I didn't even know about Isabella until yesterday. Maybe not. But Salvatore Calabrese wants to be sure. He wants to know what Maria might have told you before she died. What proof might still exist of what they witnessed? Dante's hand moved to his jacket where Sofia suspected he kept a weapon. Sofia Romano is under my protection, he said quietly. Tell Salvatore that if anyone touches her, if anyone even looks at her wrong, I will burn every Calabrese operation in America to the ground. I don't care about the truce. I don't care about the consequences. She is mine to protect, and I keep what's mine. Angelo studied them both, and something like amusement crossed his face. Yours to protect, he repeated. Interesting. Salvatore will want to know just how much she means to you, Vittorio. Because that information, that's valuable too. He stood, buttoned his coat. A word of advice, he said to Sofia. Whatever your grandmother kept hidden, whatever proof or documents or evidence she preserved, it would be smart to hand it over. Voluntary cooperation is always preferable to the alternative. And if there is no evidence? Sofia asked. Angelo smiled. Then I suppose we'll find out how persuasive we can be. He walked out of the cafe. Marco moved to follow, but Dante shook his head. Let him go. We have what we need. They sat in silence for a long moment. Around them, the cafe felt suddenly too small, too exposed. My mother testified, Dante said finally, his voice hollow. Against the Mafia, she chose to be brave, and it killed her. Sofia turned to him, saw the devastation in his eyes. She chose to be good, Sofia said softly. She chose your grandmother with her. They tried to do the right thing, and they paid for it with Fode. Everything. Dante's jaw clenched. Your grandmother spent her entire life hiding. My mother got cancer that may or may not have been helped along by people wanting revenge. And now you. He looked at her, and Sofia saw fear underneath the anger. Now you're paying the price for their courage. What do we do? Sofia asked. Dante stood, pulled her up with him. His hands framed her face gently. We finish what they started, he said. We find out exactly what they witnessed, what evidence exists, and we make sure the truth comes out, not hidden anymore, not buried. That will start a war, Sofia said. I know. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. But some things are worth fighting for. My mother knew that. Your grandmother knew that. His eyes held hers. And I'm starting to think you might be worth it too. Before Sofia could respond, Marco appeared at Dante's shoulder. Boss, we need to move. Marchetti just made 3 calls. The Calabrese are mobilizing. Dante nodded, but his eyes never left Sofia's face. Stay with me, he said. Whatever comes next, whatever this turns into, stay with me and let me keep you safe. Sofia thought about running, about disappearing like her grandmother had, about choosing survival over truth. But when she looked at Dante, at this dangerous man who'd somehow become her ally in less than 48 hours, she couldn't imagine walking away. Okay, she whispered. I'll stay. His relief was visible, visceral. He pulled her close, pressed a kiss to her forehead, and Sofia felt the moment shift into something irrevocable. She wasn't just a maid anymore. She was a witness to history, a keeper of secrets, a target for revenge. And the only thing standing between her and destruction was Dante Vittorio, whose mother had died for choosing courage over silence. Outside the cafe, Boston moved on, unaware that inside a small Italian coffee shop, 2 lives had just collided with the force of decades-old secrets. And somewhere in Brooklyn, Salvatore Calabrese was learning that Maria Esposito's granddaughter was alive, accessible, and under the protection of the one family who might actually be able to keep her that way. The war their mothers had started was about to become their inheritance. The second safe house was in Newton, a colonial-style home that looked like it belonged to a professor or a doctor, respectable, established, invisible. Sofia stood in the guest bedroom, her few belongings spread across the bed, trying to process everything that had happened in the past 6 hours. Her grandmother had testified against the Mafia. Her grandmother had helped Isabella Vittorio bring down a criminal empire. Her grandmother had been running from revenge for 37 years, and now that revenge had found Sofia instead. A knock on the door made her turn. Dante stood in the doorway, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked uncertain. "Can I come in?" he asked. Sofia nodded. He entered, closed the door behind him, and leaned against it like he needed the support. "I've been making calls," he said, "talking to people who knew my mother, who were around in 1986. Most won't say anything, but I found one of my father's old attorneys. He was drunk enough to talk." "What did he say?" Dante's expression was bleak. "That my mother witnessed a meeting in Naples. She was supposed to be visiting her family, but she came back early and saw men at my grandfather's restaurant, the Calabrese family, planning his murder. Maria was with her. They'd met up for lunch. They both heard everything." Sofia sank onto the bed. "So they went to the police?" "To the federal prosecutors, the Anti-Mafia Commission." "Commission." Dante moved to sit beside her, careful to leave space between them. They wore wires for 2 weeks, recorded conversations, gathered evidence. When the arrests came, it was like a bomb going off. My grandfather's murder was solved, but it exposed alliances that were supposed to stay hidden. My father's business connections, political corruption, judges on the take. Your father must have been furious. He was devastated, humiliated. The woman he loved had destroyed everything he'd built. Dante's hands clenched. The attorney said my father gave my mother an ultimatum: recant her testimony or leave. She refused to recant, so he stayed with her out of obligation, but emotionally, he was gone. She got cancer 3 years later. He barely visited her in the hospital. Sofia's chest ached. "That's why she wanted you to be different. Why she made you promise. She knew what this world does to people." Dante looked at her, his eyes raw with emotion. "She tried to get out, to expose it, and it killed her slowly. Took her dignity, her marriage, her health, everything. And his voice cracked. "I stepped right back into it. Took over my father's empire. Became exactly what she died trying to destroy." "You're not your father," Sofia said firmly. "You've been trying to go legitimate, to change things. Not fast enough, not completely." He stood, paced to the window. "And now you're in danger because of choices our mothers made before we were even born. Because I didn't move quickly enough to extract myself from this world." Sofia watched him, this powerful man who suddenly looked young and lost. "My grandmother wrote something in her journal," she said quietly. "She said some secrets are worth dying for, and some friendships are worth living for. I think she meant that what they did, the testimony, the courage, it mattered, even if it cost them everything." "Cost them?" Dante turned, and his eyes were fierce. "It's costing you. Right now. The Calabrese want to know what Maria told you, what evidence might still exist. They'll come after you until they're satisfied you're not a threat. Then we prove I'm not a threat. We show them my grandmother left nothing behind." "Will they believe that?" Sofia thought about Angelo, Marchetti's cold smile, about the notation on her photograph. Alive. They wanted information, yes, but more than that, they wanted closure. Revenge that had been denied for nearly 4 decades. "No," she admitted. "They won't believe it. Not without proof. So we give them proof." Dante pulled out his phone, scrolled through messages. "I've been in contact with someone who has access to the original case files from 1986. The testimony transcripts, the evidence logs, everything. If we can show the Calabrese exactly what was documented, exactly what the authorities already know, then there's no point in coming after you. The secrets are already public record. Will that be enough? It has to be." He looked at her directly. "Because the alternative is you disappearing. New identity, new country, new life." "And he stopped, seemed to struggle with the words. "I don't want that to be necessary." Sofia's heart hammered. "Why not? You barely know me." Dante crossed the room in, I think 3 strides, knelt in front of where she sat on the bed. His hands found hers, held them gently. "I know you sing old songs in perfect dialect," he said quietly. "I know you sacrifice your own tips to feed hungry strangers. I know you came to a foreign country illegally to save your father's life. I know you're brave enough to face Angelo Marchetti when most people would have run." His thumbs brushed across her knuckles. "And I know that when you walked into my bedroom yesterday morning, something in my life that's been broken for 15 years suddenly felt like it might be fixable." Sofia's breath caught. "Dante, I'm not asking you to feel the same way. I'm not even asking you to understand it. I just need you to know that keeping you safe isn't about obligation or honor or paying a debt." His eyes held hers. "It's about the fact that I can't imagine letting you disappear now that I've found you." The honesty in his voice, The vulnerability in his eyes broke something, open in Sofia's chest. This dangerous man, this criminal trying to reform, looked at her like she was salvation. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Of the Calabres, of this world, of what I'm feeling when I look at you." "What are you feeling?" Sofia touched his face, traced the strong line of his jaw. "Like I should run, like I should stay. Like everything my grandmother warned me about is happening, and I'm choosing it anyway." Dante leaned into her touch, his eyes closing briefly. "You can still run. I'll help you. New passport, new identity, enough money to start over anywhere you want. Just say the word. And if I don't want to run?" His eyes opened, dark and intense. "Then you stay here with me, and we fight this together. We find the evidence, we neutralize the threat, and he paused. "We see where this leads." Sofia knew what she should choose: safety, distance, survival. Everything her grandmother had sacrificed her whole life to achieve. But Maria Esposito had also written, "Some friendships are worth living for." And when Sofia looked at Dante, she didn't see just danger or complication. She saw someone who understood loss, who carried the same guilt about inherited choices, who was trying desperately to be better than his bloodline demanded. She saw someone who might understand her in ways no one else ever could. "I'll stay," she said, "but I need you to promise me something. Anything. If this goes wrong, if the Calabresi come after me anyway, you let me go. You don't start a war you can't win just to protect me. You don't—" "I can't promise that." Dante's voice was rough. "I can't promise I'll let you go if you're in danger. I can't promise I'll choose peace over your safety. That's not who I am. Then you're going to get yourself killed." "Maybe." He smiled slightly. "But I'll die knowing I protected something worth protecting." Before Sofia could argue, before she could point out all the ways that was insane and romantic and terrifying, Dante's phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression hardening. "My contact came through. The 1,986 case files are being delivered tonight. We'll know exactly what our mothers witnessed, exactly what evidence exists. And then we decide how to play this. Whether we negotiate with the Calabrese, whether we release everything publicly, whether we—" He stopped. "There's something else." My contact found a reference to a safety deposit box, rented in 1986 by Maria Esposito at a bank in Naples. It was never closed. Sofia's breath caught. My grandmother had a safety deposit box? For 37 years? Apparently. And the access codes are in the case files. Dante stood, pulled her up with him. "Sofia, whatever your grandmother kept in that box, it might be the key to everything. Proof of what they saw, backup evidence, maybe even insurance," Sofia finished. "In case the Calabrese ever found her. Something to make them think twice about revenge." "Exactly." Dante's hands framed her face. "I need to send someone to Naples to access that box. But that takes time a day, maybe 2. Until then, you stay here. You stay safe. And you let me handle the Calabrese." "How will you handle them?" "By making it clear that touching you means war with the Vittorio family. By showing them the case files, proving that any evidence your grandmother had is already part of the public record. He paused, by making you too valuable to kill and too dangerous to kidnap." "How do I become valuable to them?" Dante's expression shifted into something calculating, dangerous. "By becoming valuable to me. Publicly. Undeniably." Understanding dawned slowly. "You want them to think I'm important to you personally, not just someone you're protecting out of obligation. I want them to know that harming you would mean more than a business conflict. It would mean personal vengeance from someone who has the resources and the connections to make their lives very, very difficult." His eyes held hers. "I want them to understand that you're mine." The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, it sent heat through Sofia's entire body. "That's dangerous for you," she said. "It makes you look weak, like you can be manipulated through me. I don't care." No hesitation. "Your safety is worth more than my reputation." Sofia stared at him, at this man who'd somehow become central to her world in less than 2 days. Everything about this was insane, reckless. The kind of choice her grandmother had spent decades warning her against. But Maria had also made her choice, standing beside Isabella Vittorio against impossible odds. She'd chosen courage over safety, truth over silence. Maybe that courage ran in the blood. "Okay," Sofia said. "We do it your way. Make me visible. Make me valuable." Make the Calabrese understand I'm not worth the war it would take to get to me. Dante's relief was visible. He pulled her close, and this time Sofia didn't resist. She let herself lean into his strength, let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, they could actually survive this. I won't let them hurt you, he whispered against her hair. I promise. Sofia closed her eyes, breathing in his scent, memorizing this moment of safety before the storm, because she knew, with the certainty her grandmother had probably known in 1986, that promises made in this world were written in blood, and keeping them cost everything. The case files arrived at midnight, delivered by a nervous courier who handed them to Marco and left without making eye contact. Sofia and Dante spread the documents across the dining room table, page after page of testimony, evidence logs, surveillance photos, and there, in black and white, was proof of everything Angelo Marchetti had said. Isabella Vittorio and Maria Esposito had testified in excruciating detail about a meeting on March 15th, 1986, at Ristorante Vittorio in Naples. They'd named names, described plans, identified 12 men involved in conspiracy to commit murder. The photographs showed Sofia's grandmother at 23, beautiful and terrified, standing beside Isabella in a courthouse hallway. Both women wore simple dresses and looked like they hadn't slept in weeks. They were so young, Sofia whispered, touching her grandmother's image. And so brave. Dante's voice was rough. He pointed to a paragraph in Isabella's testimony. I'm doing this because my son deserves to grow up in a world where murder doesn't go unpunished, where good people don't stay silent out of fear. If testifying costs me my marriage, my safety, my life, it's still worth it. Some things matter more than survival. Sofia felt tears burning. She did it for you. She did it because it was right. Dante flipped through more pages, stopped at an evidence log. And look at this. Document 847A. Backup evidence submitted by witness Maria Esposito. Contents sealed per. Witness Protection Agreement. Location. Safety Deposit Box 2847. Banco di Napoli. Via Toledo Branch. That's the box you mentioned. Yes, but look at the notation. He pointed to a handwritten addition at the bottom. Contents include original recordings, photographs, and testimony from additional witness. Per agreement with witness, box cannot be accessed without dual authorization from both original witnesses or their legal heirs. Sofia's mind raced. Dual authorization. My grandmother and Isabella both had to agree before anyone could access it. That's why it's been sealed for 37 years. Isabella died, and my grandmother was in hiding. But you're Maria's legal heir, Dante said slowly. And I'm Isabella's, which means we're the only two people in the world who can open that box. They stared at each other across the table, the implications settling like stones. Whatever's in there, Dante said. It was important enough that our mothers made sure it couldn't be accessed by anyone else. Important enough that they built in protections even after death. Additional witness, Sofia read again. Someone else saw the meeting. Someone who never testified publicly. Someone the Calabrese don't know about. Dante's expression hardened. This is why Angelo wants you. Not for what you know, for what you can access. They think there's more evidence, more names, more proof that could still hurt them after all these years. Is there? Only one way to find out. Dante pulled out his phone, made a call. Marco, I need you on a flight to Naples tonight. I'm sending details. You'll need Sofia's signature on power of attorney documents, my authorization codes, and diplomatic immunity paperwork. He listened for a moment. I don't care what it costs. Get that box opened and get me its contents within 48 hours. He hung up, looked at Sofia. Are you sure about this? Once we open that box, once we know what's inside, we can't unknow it. Whatever secrets our mothers kept, they become our responsibility. Sofia thought about her grandmother's last journal entry. God forgive me for staying silent. She wants us to know, Sofia said. She spent her whole life keeping these secrets, but she knew someday they'd need to come out. Why else leave the journal? Why else keep paying for that safety deposit box for 37 years? Because she loved someone enough to protect them even after death, Dante said quietly. The question is who? What if the additional witness was someone close to the Calabrese? Someone whose testimony would have destroyed their entire organization? Then we need to know who it is before the Calabrese figure it out. A crash from downstairs made them both freeze. Marco's voice called out, sharp and urgent. We have company. Multiple vehicles, armed men coming up the drive. Dante was moving instantly, pulling Sofia toward the back of the house. Panic room. Now. What about you? I'll handle this. He punched a code into a hidden panel, revealing a reinforced steel door. Inside. Don't open it for anyone but me or Marco. Dante. He kissed her, hard and fast and desperate. Trust me. Stay alive. That's all that matters. Then he shoved her through the door and sealed it behind her. Sofia stumbled into darkness. Motion lights flickered on, revealing a small room with supplies, communications equipment, and monitors showing every angle of the house exterior. On the screens, she watched 6 black SUVs pull up. Men poured out, at least 20 of them, wearing tactical gear and carrying weapons that made Sofia's blood run cold. This wasn't surveillance. This was an assault. Dante appeared on one monitor, standing in the front hallway with Marco and 4 other men, impossibly outnumbered but looking calm, almost bored. The front door crashed open. A man walked in, older, distinguished, wearing a suit despite the late hour. Even through the grainy footage, Sofia could see his resemblance to Angelo Marchetti. Salvatore Calabrese, she whispered. The audio crackled to life through the panic room speakers. She heard Salvatore's voice, accented and cultured. Dante Vittorio, you've been making phone calls about Naples, about safety deposit boxes and case files from 1986. He smiled coldly. Did you think I wouldn't find out? I assumed you'd find out, Dante replied calmly. That was the point. You wanted to know if Maria Esposito left evidence. Now you know she did. It's locked in a safety deposit box that requires dual authorization to access. Authorization only Sofia Romano and I can provide. Then it's fortunate I have men who specialize in persuasive conversations. Salvatore gestured, and 2 of his men moved toward the stairs. Where is she, Dante? The girl. Give her to me, and we can discuss this reasonably. She's not here. Don't insult me. My surveillance shows she entered this house 3 hours ago and never left. Then, your surveillance is wrong. Dante's voice didn't change, but Sofia saw his hand move fractionally toward his jacket. And you're about to make a mistake you can't take back. Am I? Salvatore stepped closer. You care about this girl. Angelo told me how you looked at her, how you protected her. That makes her valuable. And in my experience, people give up valuable things when properly motivated. Sofia watched in horror as Salvatore nodded. His men raised their weapons, all pointed at Dante. Last chance, Salvatore said. The girl, or we find out how much blood this house can hold. Dante didn't move, didn't flinch. You kill me, and you'll never access that box. You'll never know what Isabella and Maria documented. You'll spend the rest of your life wondering what evidence might still surface, what testimony might still destroy you. I'll take that risk. You shouldn't. Dante's voice dropped to something deadly. Because that box? It doesn't just contain evidence about Fakisle. 1986. It contains testimony from a witness you didn't know existed. Someone who saw everything. Someone whose name would end your organization permanently if it went public. Salvatore's expression flickered. You're bluffing. Am I? According to the case files, there was an additional witness. Someone Maria and Isabella protected. Someone who never testified publicly because they were too valuable, too connected. Dante smiled, and it was terrifying. Someone whose identity is sealed in that box, along with their full testimony. Touch me, touch Sofia, and that information goes to every federal prosecutor, every journalist, every rival family who'd love to know exactly who betrayed you in 1986. The room went silent. Sofia held her breath, watching Salvatore calculate odds. You're lying, Salvatore said, but his certainty had cracked. Then test me, kill me and find out. Dante's voice was ice. But remember, if I'm telling the truth, you'll have started a war you can't win. Every family I'm allied with will know you killed me over evidence that destroys you. They'll smell blood in the water. How long do you think you'll last? Salvatore stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned to his men. Everyone out. Now. Boss, Angelo started. I said out. Salvatore's voice cracked like a whip. His men retreated, filing out of the house with weapons still ready but no longer targeting. Salvatore stopped at the door, looked back at Dante. You have 48 hours. Open that box. Show me what's inside. Prove this mystery witness doesn't exist. If you're lying, if there's no additional testimony, no sealed identity, there is. Dante interrupted. And once we open it, you'll understand why our mothers protected it so carefully, why they were willing to die rather than reveal it. 48 hours, Salvatore repeated. And Dante? Tell the girl to pray that box contains what you promise, because if it doesn't, I'll make her wish her grandmother had stayed silent. He left. The SUVs pulled away. Within minutes, the property was empty except for Dante's men. Sofia watched on the monitors as Dante sagged against the wall, the calm mask finally cracking. Marco appeared beside him, and Sofia heard their muffled conversation through the audio. "You're insane," Marco said. "You have no idea if there's actually an additional witness in that box." "I know," Dante admitted, "but it was the only play I had, the only thing that would make Salvatore hesitate." "And if you're wrong? If the box contains nothing but old evidence about known crimes? Then Sofia and I will be on a plane to somewhere without extradition treaties, and you'll need to evacuate everyone else before the Calabrese retaliate." Sofia's chest tightened. He'd gambled everything: his safety, his organization's stability, his alliances on the possibility that her grandmother had left something worth protecting. The panic room door hissed open. Dante stood there, exhausted and disheveled and somehow more beautiful than ever. "You heard?" he asked. Sofia nodded. "You bought us 48 hours. I bought us a death sentence if I'm wrong." He pulled her close, and Sofia felt him trembling. Not from fear, she realized, but from adrenaline crash. "I need that box open, Sofia. I need whatever's inside to be worth the gamble I just made. And if it's not? Then we run. Together. Tonight. We disappear and never look back." Sofia pulled away enough to look at him. "I won't let you abandon your life for me." "My life?" Dante laughed bitterly. "What life? Criminal empire I'm trying to escape? Alliances based on fear? This house isn't a home, Sofia. It's a fortress, and I'm tired of living like I'm under siege." He cupped her face. "If running with you means I finally get to be free, then that's not abandonment. That's salvation." Tears burned Sofia's eyes. This man, this dangerous, powerful man, was willing to give up everything for her. For the daughter of a woman who'd loved his mother enough to testify against monsters. "We won't have to run," she said, trying to sound certain. "Whatever's in that box, it will be enough. My grandmother wouldn't have protected it for 37 years if it wasn't." "I hope you're right." Dante pressed his forehead to hers. "Because I'm not ready to say goodbye to you yet. Not when I just found you." They stood there in the panic room doorway, holding each other while the house settled into quiet around them. Outside, dawn was breaking over Newton, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold. Somewhere in Naples, Marco was accessing a safety deposit box that held secrets worth killing for. And somewhere in Brooklyn, Salvatore Calabrese was calculating whether Dante Vittorio was bluffing or revealing a truth that could destroy everything the Calabrese family had built. Sofia thought about her grandmother, about Isabella, about two women who'd chosen courage when silence would have been safer. "They were brave," she whispered. "Our mothers. They knew what it would cost. And they did it anyway." "Yes," Dante agreed. "And now we honor that courage by finishing what they started, by making sure their sacrifice meant something." "Yes. Even if it means war?" "Even then." His arms tightened around her. "Some things are worth fighting for, Sofia. You taught me that. You and your grandmother and my mother, you all proved that choosing right over safe, truth over silence, love over fear, that's what makes us human. That's what makes us better than the world we inherited." Sofia kissed him then, pouring everything she couldn't say into the contact. Fear and hope, terror and trust, the desperate knowledge that they were balanced on a knife's edge between survival and destruction. When they broke apart, Dante smiled, genuine and warm and achingly vulnerable. "Stay with me," he said, "through whatever comes next. Stay. Always," Sofia promised. It was a promise she knew might cost her everything. But as dawn light filled the safe house, and Dante held her like she was precious, Sofia understood what her grandmother had known in 1986. Some promises were worth any price. Some people were worth any risk. And some loves were worth fighting for, even when the whole world said to run. Marco's call came 36 hours later. Sofia was in the kitchen making coffee she wouldn't drink when Dante's phone rang. She watched his face as he answered, watched hope and fear war across his expression. "You got in?" Dante asked. Then, "How much? All of it?" A pause. "Send everything to the secure server. Photos of every document. I need to see it before." He stopped. "What do you mean you recognize the name?" Sofia's hand stilled on the coffee pot. Dante's face had gone pale. Are you certain? His voice was barely controlled. Marco, if you're wrong about this. He listened, and whatever Marco said made Dante sink into a chair. Get on the next flight. Back. Don't talk to anyone. Don't stop anywhere. Just get home. He hung up. For a long moment, he just sat there, staring at nothing. Dante? Sofia moved to him, knelt beside his chair. What was in the box? He looked at her, and his eyes held something close to devastation. Everything, he said hoarsely. Recordings of the meeting where they planned my grandfather's murder. Photographs of money being exchanged. Documents proving political corruption, judicial bribery, police complicity. He swallowed hard. And testimony from the additional witness. Complete, detailed testimony that would destroy not just the Calabrese family, but 3 other organizations they were allied with. That's good, isn't it? That's proof. That's leverage. The witness, Dante continued like he hadn't heard her. The person our mothers protected for 37 years. The identity they sealed away because revealing it would have been too dangerous. Sofia's chest tightened. Who was it? My father. The words fell like stones. My father, Roberto Vittorio, witnessed the planning meeting. He was there. He heard everything. And instead of going to the authorities himself, instead of doing the right thing, he stayed silent. Dante's voice broke. Until my mother forced his hand. Until she and Maria gathered enough evidence that my father had no choice but to corroborate their testimony or be implicated himself. Sofia's breath left her in a rush. Your father was the additional witness? Yes. And that's why the Calabrese have been so desperate to know what's in that box. Not because they care about testimony from 37 years ago, but because my father's involvement proves something they've suspected for decades. That Roberto Vittorio betrayed them. That he was complicit in bringing down their organization even while pretending to be their ally. Dante stood abruptly, paced to the window. My father built his empire on the reputation of being untouchable, being loyal to the old ways. But the truth is, he only testified to save himself. He let my mother take the public blame, let everyone think she'd acted alone, while his testimony stayed sealed. He sacrificed her reputation, her safety, her life to preserve his own position. And Isabella let him do it, Sofia said quietly. She protected him anyway. Because she loved him. Because she wanted me to have a father, even one who was broken and bitter, and eventually drove her to an early grave with his resentment. Dante's fist clenched. She died protecting a man who didn't deserve her protection. And your grandmother spent 37 years in hiding to preserve a secret that would have destroyed my father's reputation. Sofia joined him at the window. Outside, gray clouds promised rain. What happens now? Now I decide what to do with the truth. Dante pulled out his phone, showed her photos Marco had sent. Documents, recordings, testimony in Roberto Vittorio's handwriting. This information ends the Calabrese. But it also ends my father's legacy. It proves that everything he built was founded on betrayal and cowardice disguised as loyalty. Will you show it to Salvatore? I have to. We have 8 hours left before his deadline. Dante's jaw clenched. But once he sees this, once he knows my father was the witness, he'll understand why it was sealed. Why our mothers protected it even at the cost of their own lives. Because revealing it would have started a war. Exactly. The Calabrese would have killed my entire family in retaliation. Every alliance my father had would have crumbled. The violence would have been... He stopped. My mother chose peace over justice. She chose to protect me by keeping this secret, even though it meant the Calabrese walked free, even though it meant living with my father's resentment. Sofia touched his arm gently. She chose you. That's what mothers do. And now I have to choose. Dante turned to face her fully. I can show Salvatore everything, prove there's nothing left to hide, and end this peacefully. But it means destroying my father's reputation. It means admitting that the Vittorio name is built on cowardice. Or, I keep the secret sealed. Tell Salvatore I'll show him limited evidence, enough to satisfy him but not enough to expose my father's role. But that means, he paused. That means Salvatore will never fully trust that there's nothing else. He'll always wonder, always suspect. And you'll never be completely safe. The choice crystallized in Sofia's mind. Dante's father's reputation versus her safety. The past versus the future. Honor versus survival. What would your mother want you to do? She asked quietly. Dante's eyes shone with unshed tears. She'd want me to protect you. She'd say one life is worth more than 1,000 reputations. His voice cracked. She'd tell me to be brave enough to tell the truth, even when it hurts, even when it costs everything. Sofia stepped closer, took his hands. Then that's what we do. We tell the truth, all of it. We show Salvatore exactly what's in that box, and we let the consequences fall where they will. Sofia, you don't understand what that means. My father's allies will turn on me. Business relationships will collapse. There might be families who see this as weakness, who try to take advantage. Then we'll face that together. She squeezed his hands. Your mother and my grandmother didn't stay silent for 37 years, so that we could keep making the same choices that poisoned their lives. They kept this secret to protect you when you were young and vulnerable. But you're not young anymore, Dante. You're strong enough to carry the truth. We both are. He stared at her, searching her face for doubt or fear. Sofia let him see everything. Her terror, her trust, her absolute certainty that this was right. You're sure? He asked. Because once I do this, there's no taking it back. The truth will be out there forever, I'm sure. And she was. Some secrets poison everything they touch. This one has poisoned 2 generations. It's time to let it go. Dante pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. You're the bravest person I've ever met. I learned from the best. Sofia held him tight. My grandmother. Your mother. 2 women who chose truth when lies would have been easier. They stood there for a long moment, gathering strength from each other. Then Dante pulled back, his expression shifting into something harder, more resolved. All right, he said. We do this. But we do it on our terms, in a place of my choosing, with protection in place. I won't risk you more than necessary. Where? The place where it all started. Ristorante Vittorio. Dante's voice was grim. My grandfather's restaurant in the North End. It's been in my family for 60 years. Neutral ground in Boston, public enough that the Calabrese can't try anything overt, and fitting, that we end this where our mother's courage began. Sofia nodded. When? Tonight. I'll send word to Salvatore. He'll bring his people, I'll bring mine. We'll open the files, show him everything, and let the truth finally speak for itself. He cupped her face. But Sofia, I need you to promise me something. What? If this goes wrong, if Salvatore reacts badly, if violence starts, Marco will get you out. There's a back exit from the restaurant that leads to a car. He has instructions to take you directly to the airport. There's a private plane fueled and ready. Promise me you'll go. Promise me you'll survive even if I don't. No. Sofia's voice was fierce. I'm not leaving you. Sofia, no. We started this together, we end it together. Whatever happens tonight, we face it side by side. That's not negotiable. Dante looked like he wanted to argue, but something in her expression stopped him. Instead, he kissed her deep and desperate and full of everything they hadn't said yet. When they broke apart, Sofia rested her forehead against his. I love you, she whispered. I know it's insane. I know we've only known each other 3 days, but I love you, Dante Vittorio, and I'm not letting you face this alone. His arms tightened around her. I love you too. From the moment you sang that song, maybe even before I consciously knew it, he paused. You're the reason I've been trying to change. The proof that choosing differently is possible. They held each other as rain began to fall outside, as hours ticked toward evening, as the moment of truth approached. Ristorante Vittorio had been closed for renovations since Dante's father's death 3 years ago. But tonight, lights blazed in the windows and cars lined the street outside. Sofia walked in beside Dante, her hand in his, trying not to show her fear. The interior was beautiful. Old-world Italian elegance, white tablecloths, wine bottles lining the walls. It looked like a place where families celebrated, where love was declared, where life's milestones were marked. Not a place where secrets that had festered for 37 years would finally be exposed. Salvatore Calabrese sat at a table in the center of the restaurant, flanked by Angelo and 4 other men. They all stood as Dante and Sofia entered. Vittorio, Salvatore said, you're cutting it close. My deadline was 30 minutes ago. I needed time to verify everything. Dante gestured to Marco, who carried a leather briefcase. The contents of the safety deposit box. Every document, every recording, every photograph. Exactly what our mothers preserved. Salvatore's eyes gleamed. And the additional witness? The identity you claimed would destroy me? Present and accounted for. Dante's voice was steady. But before I show you, I need your word. Once you see this, once you understand why it was sealed, you walk away. Sofia Romano is off limits. The past stays in the past. Whatever debts you think you're owed, they're paid in full by the truth I'm about to give you. That depends on what the truth is. Then let's find out. Dante nodded to Marco, who began setting up a laptop and projector. The planning meeting for my grandfather's murder took place on March 15th, 1986. Present were 12 members of the Calabresi organization, including your father, Salvatore. Images appeared on the wall, grainy photographs of men in suits, gathered around a table covered with maps and money. Sofia recognized the younger version of Salvatore, maybe 25 then, standing beside an older man who had to be his father. My mother and Maria Esposito witnessed this meeting accidentally. They were in the back office of this restaurant, going through family recipes. They heard everything. Dante's voice was cold, factual. Every detail of how my grandfather would be killed. Who would plant the bomb? Who would provide alibis? Who would ensure police cooperation? Audio crackled too. Life. Sofia heard her grandmother's voice, young and terrified, describing what they'd witnessed. Isabella's voice joined, calm and precise, naming names and providing details that made Salvatore's men shift uncomfortably. This is all documented, Salvatore said. This is known history. Show me something new or I walk out and my 48 hours starts over. Here's something new. Dante pulled up a document. The additional witness, the person who corroborated every detail of my mother and Maria's testimony, the person whose inside knowledge made the case unbeatable. He clicked. A photograph appeared. Roberto Vittorio's face, serious and haunted in a federal prosecutor's office. Salvatore went still. Your father? My father. Dante's voice was flat. He was at that meeting too. Invited by your father to prove his loyalty, to show he could be trusted with family secrets. Instead, he witnessed a murder plot, stayed silent, and only testified when my mother forced his hand, by going to the authorities first. The room erupted. Salvatore's men shouted. Angelo swore viciously. But Salvatore himself just stared at the photograph, his expression unreadable. Roberto Vittorio testified against us, he said slowly. Stood in federal court and destroyed my father's organization. And then he went home, pretended nothing had happened, and built his empire on our ruins. Yes, Dante met his eyes. My father was a coward. He witnessed a crime, stayed silent, and only did the right thing when exposure was inevitable. He let my mother and Maria take the public blame, kept his own testimony sealed, and spent the rest of his life resenting the woman who'd forced him to have a conscience. And you're telling me this why? Salvatore's voice was dangerous. You're destroying your own father's reputation to protect a girl you've known 3 days? I'm telling you this because you deserve the truth, because 37 years of secrets and revenge and fear end tonight. Dante's hand found Sofia's. Roberto Vittorio's testimony is public record now. Any prosecutor, any journalist, anyone can access it. The sealed files are unsealed. The secret is out. There's nothing left to hide, nothing left to leverage, nothing left worth killing over. Salvatore stood, moved to the projected image of Roberto Vittorio. He studied it for a long moment, his men silent behind him. Your father destroyed my family, he said quietly, put my father in prison, killed my uncle, ended alliances that had lasted generations, all while pretending to be our ally. Do you understand what that kind of betrayal costs? I understand better than you think. Dante's voice was rough. My father's betrayal cost my mother her health, her happiness, her life. Cost me a childhood where I felt protected and loved. Cost Maria Esposito 37 years of running and hiding. His cowardice poisoned everything it touched. Then why protect his memory? Why not expose this? Years ago? Because my mother asked me not to. Because she loved him despite everything, and she wanted me to have something of him that wasn't tainted by shame. Dante's jaw clenched. But she's gone now, and I'm choosing Sofia's safety over my father's reputation. I'm choosing truth over loyalty to a dead man's lies. Salvatore turned to face them fully. His expression was complex anger and respect, and something almost like understanding. Isabella Vittorio was brave, he said finally. Braver than your father, braver than most men I've known. She looked at my father in court and never blinked, never wavered. She was... He paused. She was proof that some people are worth more than the world they're born into. Yes, Dante agreed quietly. She was... And Maria Esposito. She could have stayed silent, Let Isabella testify alone. But she stood beside her anyway, sacrificed her whole life to protect a friend. Sofia felt tears building. My grandmother loved Isabella like a sister. She would have done anything for her. Salvatore studied Sofia for a long moment. You have her eyes, Maria's eyes, and that same stubborn courage that made her so dangerous to us. He looked back at Dante. You're telling me the truth tonight because you love this girl the way your mother loved Maria. The way some people love completely, recklessly, without counting the cost. Yes. Then let me tell you a truth in return. Salvatore's voice was quiet. My father spent 37 years wanting revenge on Isabella and Maria. He died still wanting it, still obsessing over the women who'd destroyed him. That obsession poisoned our family the same way Roberto's cowardice poisoned yours. He gestured to the documents. I don't want to become my father. I don't want to spend my life chasing ghosts and reopening old wounds. Not when the truth you've shown me tonight proves that the real traitor was Roberto Vittorio, not your mother. Hope flickered in Sofia's chest. Does that mean... It means the debt is paid. Salvatore looked at her directly. Sofia Romano, granddaughter of Maria Esposito. You're free. No more surveillance. No more threats. No more revenge for crimes your grandmother committed 37 years ago. He paused. She did what she thought was right. I can hate what it cost my family and still respect the courage it took. Sofia felt Dante's hand tighten on hers. You're letting her go? Just like that? I'm choosing to end a cycle that's destroyed 3 generations. Salvatore's voice was firm. My grandfather killed yours. Your mother and Sofia's grandmother brought down my father. Your father betrayed everyone while pretending to be loyal. We could keep trading revenge until we've all destroyed each other, or we could choose to stop, to let the past finally die. He extended his hand to Dante. I'm choosing to stop. For a moment, Dante didn't move. Sofia could feel the tension in him, the lifetime of inherited hatred and suspicion warring with the possibility of peace. Then he reached out and shook Salvatore's hand. Thank you, Dante said quietly, for choosing differently. Thank your mother. And Maria. Salvatore released his hand. They were the brave ones. We're just finally choosing to honor that courage instead of punishing it. He nodded to his men, and they filed out of the restaurant. Angelo paused at the door, looked back at Sofia. Your grandmother was formidable, he said. She evaded us for 37 years. That takes skill and steel most people don't have. You should be proud. Then he was gone, and the restaurant fell silent. Sofia collapsed into a chair, her legs suddenly unable to hold her. It was over. Truly over. The Calabrese had walked away. She was free. Dante knelt beside her, pulled her into his arms. You're safe, he whispered against her hair. It's done. You're safe. Sofia clung to him, crying now relief and grief and overwhelming exhaustion pouring out in shaking sobs. All the fear she'd been holding, all the terror of the past 3 days, finally released. They let me go, she whispered. Why did they let me go? Because telling the truth forced them to see you as human, as someone's granddaughter, someone worthy of mercy, not just a problem to solve. Dante pulled back enough to look at her. You saved yourself, Sofia. Your courage, your choice to face this instead of running, it changed everything. Marco appeared with Marco, looking exhausted but relieved. Boss, we should move. Get Miss Romano somewhere secure until we're certain the Calabrese keep their word. No. Sofia found her voice, steadier now. No more safe houses, no more hiding. She looked at Dante. I want to go home, to my apartment. I want to sleep in my own bed and wake up tomorrow and start living again. Sofia, please. She touched his face. I've been running my whole life. Running from poverty, from loss, from my grandmother's fear. I'm done running. If the Calabrese change their minds, if this peace doesn't hold, I'll deal with it. But tonight, I want to feel normal again. Dante studied her face, then nodded slowly. Okay, but I'm staying with you, and Marco's men will be positioned outside, just until we're certain. Deal. They drove through Boston in Dante's car, just the two of them, the city lights blurring past. Sofia watched familiar streets appear, felt something in her chest slowly unclench. She was going home. Really home. Not to hide, not to run, but to live. Her apartment looked exactly as she'd left it 3 days ago, but everything felt different now, changed by truth and courage and choices that had rippled across generations. Dante stood in the tiny space, looking too large and too elegant for the shabby furniture and water-stained ceiling. "This is where you've been living?" he asked quietly. "While cleaning my mansion?" "Yes." Sofia didn't apologize. "It's all I could afford. It's not safe enough. Not secure enough. Not, it's mine." She cut him off gently. "Dante, I know you want to protect me. I know you have resources and money and you could solve all my problems with a phone call. But I need to stand on my own feet. I need to build a life that's mine, not just survive on your protection." He looked hurt. "I'm not trying to control you. I know." Sofia moved closer. "But I also know that your world comes with strings, with obligations, with debts that have to be paid. I want us to be equals, Dante. Partners who choose each other, not a powerful man and the woman he saved. You saved yourself tonight. And you saved me too from becoming my father, from keeping secrets that would have poisoned me the way they poisoned him. Then let's build something new." Sofia took his hands. "Something that isn't about protection or debt or inheritance. Something that's just us, choosing each other every day." Dante kissed her softly. "I can do that. But I'm still installing better locks on your door." Sofia laughed, and it felt like freedom. "Deal." They spent that night together, not hiding, not running, just being. Dante held her as she finally slept without nightmares. And Sofia woke to sunlight streaming through her window and the knowledge that the past had finally lost its power over her future. 3 months later, Sofia stood in front of a building in the North End. The sign above the door read, "Hope Kitchen, in memory of Isabella Vittorio and Maria Esposito." Dante appeared beside her, threading his fingers through hers. "You ready?" "I can't believe this is real." Sofia stared at the beautiful space they'd created. A community kitchen funded by Dante's legitimate businesses, run by Sofia, serving free meals to anyone who needed them. "My grandmother would have loved this. My mother too." Dante's voice was soft. "They would have loved that we turned their tragedy into something that helps people, that we finished what they started." Sofia looked at him, this man who'd changed so much in 3 months. He'd continued dismantling his father's criminal empire, transitioning fully into legitimate businesses. There had been challenges, rivals who'd tried to take advantage, but Dante had weathered them with the same courage Isabella had shown 37 years ago. "I have something for you," he said, pulling out a small box. Sofia's breath caught. "Dante, it was my mother's." He opened it, revealing a simple gold ring with a small diamond. "She wore it every day, even when my father was bitter and distant. She said it reminded her that she'd made choices she could be proud of." He knelt right there on the sidewalk, in front of Hope Kitchen, in front of neighbors watching with smiles. "Sofia Romano, you taught me what courage looks like. You showed me that choosing truth over lies, love over fear, vulnerability over protection, that's what makes us human. That's what makes us better than the world we inherited." His eyes shone. "Will you marry me? Will you build a life with me that honors our mother's courage? Will you choose me every day the way I choose you?" Sofia's tears fell freely. "Yes. God, yes." He slipped the ring on her finger, and it fit perfectly. Of course it did. Isabella had worn it with courage. Now Sofia would wear it with hope. The crowd that had gathered applauded. Neighbors called out congratulations. And somewhere, Sofia felt certain, 2 women who'd loved each other like sisters were watching and smiling. The past had been dark, full of secrets and pain and sacrifices that had cost everything. But the future was bright. 6 months after that, Sofia stood in a different restaurant, a small place in Naples, near Castel Volturno. Dante was beside her, his hand protectively on her slightly rounded belly. "Are you sure about this?" he asked for the 10th time. "I'm sure." Sofia looked at the coordinates they'd found in her grandmother's journal, hidden in a recipe for pasta e fagioli. "She wanted me to find this place. She left clues." They pushed open the door. Inside was cozy and warm, filled with the smell of baking bread. An older woman looked up from behind the counter, her eyes widening as she took in Sofia's face. "Madonna," she whispered. "Maria? No, you're too young. I'm Sofia, Maria Esposito's granddaughter." The woman's hand flew to her mouth. She had a granddaughter. She lived long enough to have a granddaughter. Thank God. "Did you know her?" "Know her?" The woman laughed through tears. "I'm Lucia Moretti. Maria was my cousin. We grew up together, until she left in 1986. We thought she was dead. Everyone said she died in an accident." Sofia felt Dante's hand tighten on hers. She didn't die. She went into hiding, to protect herself and the people she loved. From the Calabres. Yes, we knew about that. About what she and Isabella did. Lucia came around the counter, pulled Sofia into an embrace. Your grandmother was the bravest person I ever knew. She gave up everything to do what was right. They talked for hours. Lucia filled in gaps, told stories about Maria and Isabella as girls, explained the friendship that had been so deep it had survived separation and time and fear. Maria made me promise something, Lucia said as evening approached. She sent me a letter 10 years ago. Said if anyone came asking about her, if anyone who looked like her ever walked through that door, I should give them this. She pulled out an envelope, yellowed with age. Sofia opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a letter in her grandmother's handwriting. My dearest Sofia, if you're reading this, then you found your way to my past. You found the truth about Isabella, about the choices we made, about the courage it took to speak when silence would have been safer. I hope you don't hate me for the secrets I kept. I hope you understand that everything I did was to protect you, to give you a chance at a life I could never have. But more than that, I hope you found Dante, Isabella's son, the boy we protected with our silence, the man we prayed would be worthy of the sacrifice his mother made. If you found each other, if you chose each other despite everything our families endured, then we succeeded. We proved that love is stronger than fear, that courage breeds courage, that the next generation can choose differently. Be brave, my Sofia. Love without counting the cost. Choose truth even when lies are easier. And remember that some things, friendship, love, justice, some things are worth fighting for. Live the life I couldn't. Be free in ways I never was. And know that every day of hiding, every year of fear, was worth it because it meant you could exist in this world. With all my love, Nonna Maria Sofia finished reading with tears streaming down her face. Dante pulled her close, kissed her temple, held her while she cried for the grandmother she'd lost and the sacrifices that had led her here. She knew, Sofia whispered. She knew we'd find each other. Or she hoped. Dante's voice was rough. She hoped her courage and my mother's courage would ripple forward, that we'd be brave enough to finish what they started. Sofia touched her belly, where their child grew, a child who would never know the fear their grandmothers had lived with, a child who would grow up with the freedom that had been bought with truth and sacrifice. We did finish it, she said, and we're just beginning. Dante smiled, and it was the most beautiful thing Sofia had ever seen. Yes, we are. They walked out of the restaurant as the sun set over Naples, casting everything in golden light. Tomorrow they'd fly home to Boston, to Hope Kitchen and their new life and all the complicated beauty of building something honest. But tonight, they stood in the village where two women had been girls together, where friendship had turned into courage, where love had proven stronger than fear. And Sofia felt her grandmother's presence like a blessing, like approval, like the whispered promise that some choices echo through generations. Some loves never die. Some courage changes everything. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, the sins of the past become the salvation of the future. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.